Hey everyone, welcome back to Outside Views EU, where we dive deep into all things European Union. Today we're talking about something that's a bit of a hot topic across the continent, that's data protection and digital rights. And if you've ever wondered why you keep seeing those accept cookies pop-ups, well, you can thank the EU for that. But it's much more than just pop-ups. We're talking about the General Data Protection Regulation, or as most of us know it, the GDPR. This regulation came into effect back in May 2018 and it really shook things up for businesses and consumers alike. The GDPR essentially aims to give control back to individuals when it comes to their personal data. In the digital age, our personal information is everywhere. Think about it. Every time you sign up for a service, share a photo, or even just browse the web, you are leaving digital footprints. The GDPR makes sure that companies treat that data responsibly. Now, what does responsibly mean in this context at all? First, companies have to get clear and explicit consent from you before collecting your data. No more hiding sneaky clauses in pages of legal jargon. If they want your data, they have to ask for it in a straightforward way. Next, you have the right to access that data. That means if you want to know what a company has on you, they are legally required to show you. And if you don't want them to keep it, you've got the right to ask for it to be deleted. That's called the right to be forgotten. Pretty empowering, right? But it's not just about consent and access. GDPR also holds companies accountable if they misuse your data. If they don't comply, they can face some pretty hefty fines. We're talking millions, sometimes even billions of euros. Big tech firms like Facebook and Google have already felt the sting of these fines. So companies are definitely paying attention now. But let's zoom out a bit of this. The GDPR isn't just an EU thing. It had a global impact. Any company that does business with EU citizens has to follow these rules no matter where they are based. So if you're using a service from a company in the United States, if they handle EU data, they have to play by the GDPR rules. And that's one of the reasons the GDPR is often seen as a gold standard for data protection laws worldwide. But GDPR is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to digital rights in the EU. The EU has been working on creating a broader framework for digital rights through initiatives like the Digital Services Act and the Digital Markets Act. These are aimed at making the online world safer and fairer for everyone. For example, the Digital Services Act tackles issues like illegal content, online disinformation, and how algorithms affect what we see online. It's all about transparency and making sure big platforms like social media sites are held accountable for their content moderation policies. Meanwhile, the Digital Markets Act focuses on competition in the digital space. It's designed to stop big tech companies from monopolizing the market and stifling competition. The goal here is to create a more level playing field, especially for smaller companies and startups. And both of these acts work hand in hand with the GDPR to create a more comprehensive approach to digital rights in the EU. So when we talk about the EU and data protection, it's really about protecting our rights in the digital age. Now let's take a step back and look at how this affects us as everyday users. For one, we now have more control over our personal data than ever before, and we are seeing more transparency from companies about how they use our information. But it's not just about privacy. These regulations also push for a more open and competitive digital economy. And they encourage innovation by preventing big players from dominating the market. And importantly, they aim to make the internet a safer space where illegal content and disinformation are less likely to spread unchecked, but that's a long road still. It's a balancing act between innovation, competition, and protection of our fundamental rights. Of course, like any regulation, GDPR and these other laws aren't perfect. There's still debate about how effectively they are being enforced. And some argue that smaller businesses are struggling to comply with the complex rules. Others feel that big tech firms are still getting away with too much. But one thing is clear. The EU is setting the bar for how the digital world should operate. As technology continues to evolve, so too will the laws that govern it. And the EU seems determined to stay ahead of the curve. So what's next for data protection and digital rights in the EU? We can expect even more regulation as new technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning develop. And there's already talk about how to regulate these emerging areas to ensure that our rights are protected as technology advances. But for now, GDPR, the Digital Services Act, and the Digital Markets Act are the foundation, and they're giving us, as users, more power than ever before. So next time you see that cookie consent pop up, remember, it's not just an annoying extra click. It's part of a larger movement to protect your digital rights. Alright, that's it for today, and if you found this interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video on Outside Views EU, and the next one is right here in the end screen.